What's going on, everybody? Happy Friday. Full slate of NFL preseason games to talk about here, upcoming this weekend. Just to preview a couple of them, see how they go. We are 1 week away from week 0 of college football starting next weekend. The MLB is happening. Red Sox suck. That's fun for me. And then we got the NBA schedule release to talk about. Some of the key games, talk about some of the Grizzlies stuff. We'll get to all of that later in this episode, and maybe the return of Alex's picks at the very end. This is your Sports Digest. I'm your host, Alex McNinch. Back at it with another episode. Well, you know what? I don't know really where to start. Honestly, let's start with college football. And one of the things we could kind of talk about, it's a little bit of a Florida thing, I guess. But if you don't know who Drewski is a internet sensation, a social media icon. Now has carried on this gimmick of his where he wants to sign people to his quote-unquote label. He's a comedian guy, starting a label for all rappers, all talents. It's been a joke for a while now. But the joke is no longer a thing, as Drewski has started his own agency for athletes and has signed his first athlete, Princely Unmamielen, defensive end from Florida, is his first athlete. That's pretty cool to kind of note about, because the way he can get involved in the NIL, he's got a connection with the younger audience, college, high school people. To be able to connect with those people is a cool thing. So that's an interesting thing. I kind of just wanted to touch on that just because really, I don't know. I just feel like that's a cool thing to kind of talk about. And, with him being such a big name for college students or, just teenagers in general, we're going to see potentially a boost in his agency, and maybe he becomes one of the premier NIL guys going forward. So that's something to look forward to in college football. And like I mentioned, we are a week away. Next weekend, the 26th of August, starts week 0. We call it week 0 because it's not officially the weekend that everybody really starts playing, but there are some teams that will be playing that are in the ranked, that are in the first ever rankings. We'll talk about the first ever rankings here in a second. So we call it week 0 just because, it's not the full slate, but it's enough on your palate to get you cleansed for the weekend that is college football. Like I said, there were the official AP rankings that came out, I believe, on Monday. So we'll kind of go over it. Georgia headlines at number 1 in front of Michigan, Ohio State, and Alabama, rounding out the top 4 there. I don't really see an issue with any of those top 4. Coming in at 5 is LSU. USC at 6, Penn State 7, Florida State at 8, Clemson 9, and Washington 10. I guess if you're going to look at any of the teams to be ranked a little too high or low, again, this is coming from a Florida fan, so take this with the utmost respect by saying this. Florida State is way too low. Florida State obviously is one of the better teams in the country coming into this season. They should probably be up a little bit higher. Ohio State, I understand they're at 3, and Bama, I understand why they're at 4. I just don't know yet. Clemson and Penn State might be a little too high. I don't know. But right outside the top 10 is Texas, Tennessee, Notre Dame at 13. That's a little high. Utah at 14, Oregon 15. Kansas State, who we talked about a lot, how I like them, at 16. TCU 17. Oregon State at 18, another Pac-12 representative. Wisconsin, who is a team to look out for this year, at 19. Oklahoma at 20, and then followed by them, UNC at 21, Ole Miss 22, Texas A&M at 23, Tulane at 24, and Iowa at 25 now. Obviously, hearing a couple of these names, wondering why. Why is Tennessee 12 after the year they had last year? I guess I understand the questions of losing a bunch of guys. How are the next guys going to transition in? We'll see. We'll find out pretty early on. They have a pretty easy little schedule to start, I believe, the first 2 weeks of the season. So Those guys should be able to get acclimated into that system pretty quickly if they haven't already. Notre Dame at 13, very high, I guess, since they're playing Navy first week overseas in Ireland. They kind of want to have a ranked team representing compared to last year where Northwestern and Nebraska played. And I guess they want to keep them ranked so that when they play Ohio State on like week 5, it looks a lot better for both teams, I guess. To move on to some other teams, Oklahoma at 20. A lot of people thinking Oklahoma a little bit overrated. I think that's perfectly fine for them. I like that UNC is in the top 25. They definitely deserve it. Ole Miss, I agree that they're a top 25 team as well. Glad Tulane made it into the top 25, although another team we could talk about in the group of 5 too, potentially be in that top 25 to start UTSA. Kind of want to give them an honorable mention. Iowa at 25, we'll see, new quarterback, whatever. But Texas A&M at 23, maybe it's just because I'm not as high on them this year. I don't know if Texas A&M at 23 is right. Maybe it's just the SEC Jimbo Fisher thing. Oh, they have all the top recruits, so they should be this good, right? The guys or the teams that just missed the cut, Texas Tech, South Carolina, UCLA, Arkansas, some of those schools. I mean, I'm not mad at the top 25. Obviously, it's a preseason. These are just based on what we expect and what we think could happen. This is coming from the AP poll, so everybody knows that the poll and the rankings don't really matter until the college football playoff rankings. Those are the ones that matter, obviously. But kind of to get a bearing on some of these teams and who they are and, you know, their rankings kind of help give new fans or people who aren't as tapped into the college football world an idea on how good these teams are. You see a team that's ranked and you're like, oh, man, this team's really good. This team's really good. But sometimes it's just not always the case. I think I'm going to put out my own top 25 weekly. I should probably post that this week before the first weekend so I can have my first rankings out. But I was going to do mine every single week throughout the college football season just to see where mine pales in comparison to the AP or the college football playoff one. But those are the ones, those are all the top 25 and the teams that just missed out. And that one, I guess the coaches poll is a little different. Not really. I guess they have Texas Tech in there in the coaches poll, and Iowa's not in, but they have Florida ranked just outside the top 25 in the coaches poll. So, you know, maybe teams are a little bit higher on Florida than a lot of guys really are, but oh well. I guess we'll just see come week 1 against Utah how they line up against there. A couple other notes in college football. Peyton Thorne, transfer from Michigan State over to Auburn, is officially named the starting quarterback. We talked about Robbie Ashford a lot and kind of barely noted on Peyton Thorne, and I guess I didn't realize how close the battle really was. I assumed they were just going to go with Ashford because of his prior experience at Auburn, but Peyton Thorne, obviously the more experienced guy overall in Power 5 play. So Hugh Freeze coming in, changing the quarterback system up a little bit, going with Peyton Thorne to end up being the starting quarterback. Some other notes here to talk about within college football, I guess. UCF O-lineman Lokai Pololi donated portion of his NIL money to the Maui wildfires. That's an awesome gesture. Obviously, if you're not aware of the Maui wildfires that happened, it was a terrible situation. And, you know, in a time where the NIL is looked at as a bad thing, a lot of the times with how messy it can get, you know, there's always a shining light within everything. And so cool to see that some of these guys are putting it to good use, especially in that case, donating back to his hometown and home area after all of that happened. But yeah, I mean, college football is, it is right there around the corner. And some of the other stuff we could talk about here within college football, I guess. I just don't want to talk about Florida too much because I feel like I don't want to overload with everything my team. We're going to talk about Grizzlies later, so I don't want to overload you guys with stuff about the teams you don't care about. But this is kind of a big thing that's going on within this Florida-Utah game week 1. There's a potential chance that Cam Rising does not play week 1 against Florida. Had an ACL injury, I believe, in the bowl game. It was in the Rose Bowl that Cam Rising had his ACL injury. There's questions if he's going to be able to play week 1. Now, is that smokescreen? Probably so, but they are questioning on really who to go with at quarterback after Brandon Rose, who is the primary backup, suffered a severe injury during a scrimmage that took him to the hospital. It's tough right now. They're a beat-up quarterback room. The other two guys that, if it isn't Cam Rising, Bryson Barnes, who is a junior, who probably would be the guy if Florida played Utah this weekend. Bryson Barnes is probably the guy. And then the other guy to look for is Nate Johnson. He's a redshirt freshman, so maybe he has a chance. If Cam Rising isn't available, there might be some miracle or something saying that Cam Rising actually will play. But if Cam Rising doesn't play, that is that's a nice little thing for Florida. Obviously, hope for the best health out of everyone in every sport. But as a Florida fan, with another team starting quarterback not being available, we'll take anything as an advantage because we're already having to go on the road. New quarterback, that's a questionable quarterback. New defensive coordinator. Got to go play at Utah, which is a very good Pac-12 environment to be at. So if they're without their starting quarterback that was a weapon last year against us at week 1, that would be huge for Florida. But let's talk about one more thing in college football before we move over to some NFL stuff and then into the, the NBA scheduling. We can kind of talk about the big games. I just want to note on the Grizzlies schedule I have a portion of fans here that listen about the Grizzlies and want to hear about it. So just want to break some of that schedule down for you guys as well. But CBS Sports put out a list of freshmen that can make an instant impact at their schools. I just want to go over a couple of them. Caleb Downs being the first guy, defensive back out of Alabama, in a cornerback room that is very solid right now. You have Arnold and Kool-Aid as your top two guys. If you can find that instant third guy to be your lockdown, shutdown corners, if he can come in and make that type of impact like Kool-Aid did his freshman year, man, this could be a very, very good Alabama defensive team in comparison to all the questions that they have going on at the quarterback position. So that would be a great thing for Alabama to have another guy break out like that. Jaden Greathouse, a wide receiver from Notre Dame. Don't really know as much about this guy, but losing Michael Mayer is a big thing. He was a sure target last year, no matter what. And now that Sam Hartman is taken over at quarterback at Notre Dame, he's going to have to get a guy to be his number one guy. So if you can get a true freshman to come in there and be any type of help, it would be a great help for the team, I guess. Had 118 yards in Notre Dame spring game, so definitely one to look out for there. Another one, Peter Woods, defensive lineman out of Clemson, true freshman. He is unbelievable. We talked about him in the ACC preview when we talked about Clemson. I said he was going to be an instant impact to that defensive line rotation depth. If he gets a chance to play as well, he's a dominant force. Look out for him as well. And another dude we also talked about, Dante Moore, quarterback out of UCLA. When talking about the Pac-12, we didn't really know what direction they were going to go at quarterback this year. I said that Dante Moore should 100% be the starting quarterback if he doesn't end up being the starting quarterback in a couple of weeks over Garbers. I would say you see Dante Moore as the starting quarterback at UCLA probably by week 3 if they haven't made a decision already. Quickly moving over to the NFL, we'll kind of touch on them towards the end of the episode. I just want to go over some of the games. I'm recording this on Thursday before the Browns and the Eagles game, so I don't have any analysis about that game for you guys. Other games coming up this weekend, this Friday, today as this episode comes out. The Panthers and the Giants play. Should be another good chance to see how Bryce Young plays. The Bengals and the Falcons play as well that night. Still questions around the Bengals, whether Joe Burrow is going to be ready for Week 1 or not. We'll find out. On Saturday, we have the Jags and the Lions will be playing in the early afternoon on NFL Network, followed by the Dolphins and the Texans, another chance to see how C.J. Stroud can play. The Bills and the Steelers, after the Steelers looked amazing last week, Kenny Pickett and George Pickens looked fantastic last week together against the Bucs. They get another shot as well. I think Josh Allen might be playing a drive or two this week against the Steelers. Not for sure, though. I think that's what I saw somewhere, so don't take my word for granted, though. 6 o'clock, the Bears and the Colts play another week of Anthony Richardson after he was just announced as the starting quarterback officially for the Colts. Cannot wait to see him play this year. Jersey is about to be ordered. I'm super excited for him. And then the Bears, it just seems like they're going to be throwing screen passes the entire year. At 6:30, Jets and Bucks. Probably not going to see Rodgers again if I were to guess, but I might be wrong. I really don't know. But this is another opportunity to see what the Jets have around him. They just got Dalvin Cook, brought him in. That's going to be a big addition to that team that's already loaded. There's rumors of getting David Bakhtiari, potentially one of Aaron Rodgers' close friends from the Packers. I don't know if that's going to happen or not, but if so, that's a big get. And then for the Buccaneers side of things, you're still wondering, is it Mayfield or Trask? I'm obviously diehard Gator, so I'm rooting for Trask to always win, but not a great quarterback battle to have down there in Tampa. Chiefs and Cardinals, who cares? Chiefs aren't really going to play anybody. The Cardinals are not good at football. Patriots and Packers, I think Jordan Love's going to get another shot to play again this week, so the constant development of his going into this season is something to watch for. And then the Patriots just signed Ezekiel Elliott. Doubt he'll play, but he might. I might be wrong. It just seems a little too soon to play. Titans and Vikings play. Another chance to see who's going to be the backup quarterback there in Tennessee between Malik Willis and Will Levis. The Broncos and 49ers play. Apparently, the 49ers have some issues going on at quarterback because there's been some terrible quarterback play there in San Francisco this past week. They're saying Brock Purdy threw like 11 interceptions over scrimmages. Trey Lance doesn't look good. And Sam Darnold, obviously, we know he sees ghosts all the time. So the Broncos are looking to capitalize on this and maybe use this as another developmental period for them. Raiders and Rams, seeing how great of a quarterback battle we got in this one. Aiden O'Connell looked fantastic for the Raiders last week, and Stetson Bennett looked very solid for the Rams last week as well. And then the nightcap of that one, the ending, Cowboys and Seahawks. Not really much to look forward to there. And then Sunday night, Saints and Chargers is the game there. Saints look pretty good. Derek Carr looked really good week 1 of the preseason. We'll see if the Chargers really give Max Duggan any more shine on Sunday night. And like I said, we'll talk about Monday night's game when we post Monday's episode, I guess. So, that's kind of it for the NFL. I mean, we can note on something else that's happened within the NFL. I don't really want to talk about it just because I don't know the full extent of it. But Michael Orr, everyone's been seeing this type of this situation that's been going on with him and his adopted family. Michael Orr has come out and said that they used him and bribed him with all this money for the documentary and the story and everything. It's just a messy situation. Obviously, if you're a native of Memphis, you know that family is a very popular one. Very notable names in that circle. One being a former color commentator for the Grizzlies games on Fox Sports. So I don't know really much about the situation that's happening now. Obviously, I know the story and everything, but It's just weird. We're going to need some more details to kind of come out on that as well. But yeah, if it's true that they have lied to him this entire time just to use him for money, that is just completely sad and ridiculous. But if it's not true and Michael Orr is just trying to get money out of this because he needs it, then that's also a very sad situation as well, and need to find him some help to potentially continue him going on, because this is not a great thing to be shown for after being known as one of the greatest stories in all of sports. Obviously, everybody's seen The Blind Side and whatnot, so just such a sad story within that. And we'll talk about another sad story here, jumping to sports. I don't want to talk baseball because I hate watching the stupid Red Sox play baseball. The Red Sox game is on currently while I'm recording. I left. The only reason I'm recording this when I am right now is because I don't want to watch them play anymore, so that's upsetting a little bit. But let's just go ahead and talk about it. I kind of made a little jab at it last episode when there were small little cracks coming through the surface about it. But Wander Franco, man, what an idiot. What an idiot that guy is. If you do not know, Wander Franco, shortstop of the Tampa Bay Rays, one of the top prospects in all of baseball a few years ago, one of the brightest young stars in baseball for the future, signed a $170 million contract for 10 years to play for the Rays. He's going to be the future of the franchise. Yeah, well, obviously I don't want to say certain things, but let's just say there was some things that came out about him hanging out and being in a relationship with a 14-year-old girl and did not give any hush money. So there was something released. People came out kind of disputing that, saying, oh, she's got a kid. There's no way she's 14. And then there was another report that came out saying that there were multiple underage females. So congratulations, bud. You just ruined your entire career. Welcome to the list of complete idiots from baseball that have ruined their careers for no apparent reason. And I mean, I'm no Wander Franco hater. I was never a fan of him just because he was a Ray and I'm a Red Sox fan and it's a rivalry in the division. But, you don't hate to see something like this happen to people like that, If you're going to act the way you are like that and still flaunt around being one of the top young guys in the MLB, great way to represent yourself, bud. Hector Gomez, one of the premier guys reporting in the Dominican Republic, Puerto Rican market, everything in that Hispanic area. He came out and said that there are growing likeliness that Wander Franco will never play again in the MLB, as he should. After that, it's just ridiculous. Way to just throw your life away. I get made fun of for John Morant's situation all the time, yet we got idiots like that are just throwing their careers away like it's nothing. So enjoy the memes while they're still here, but what a stupid decision by him. Hate to see it for the Rays organization that have done everything right, but you don't hate to see it to a guy like that if you're going to act that way. All right, moving on to the NBA, and the NBA just released their schedule for the upcoming season this year. Exciting time knowing that the NBA is just right around the corner. I'm super excited. The first thing they introduced at the beginning of the week was the in-season tournament schedule. And if you do not know what the in-season tournament is in the NBA, they are trying to do it kind of like how the WNBA has it right now with the Commissioner's Cup, and what they're doing with the MLS right now with the league's championship, as well as overseas soccer as well. They're basically, it's a group of pool play. Everybody got split up into, I believe, 6 different pools. And you play 4 or 5 games within that grouping pool. The best 2 teams out of each group get to move on to the quarterfinals, who will then advance to the semifinals, finals. That final game will be held in Las Vegas, all winning for a cash prize. Now, it sounds stupid. It is a little stupid, but I get why they're doing it. I get what they're trying to do. Just on paper, once you think about it a little bit more, it starts to kind of mess with your head. Like, what's the real true outcome of all of this? Why aren't we just playing extra games? Because we'll kind of note about it when I talk about the Grizzlies. You'll see that there's a little bit of a gap and change to schedule because of this in-season schedule. But we'll talk about some of the things that are going on kind of with the NBA and some of the more important dates. We talked about it last episode. Opening night was kind of leaked out by Shams. He kind of said what was going on opening night. Some other people to talk or other things to talk about. Victor Wembanyama going to be making his NBA debut against the Dallas Mavericks on the 25th. They'll be playing at home. LeBron and Kevin Durant will be playing against each other for the first time since 2018 on October 26th when Phoenix goes to Los Angeles. Miami and Boston will play for the first time in a rematch for the Eastern Conference Finals for the past 2 years on October 27th. The first Clippers-Lakers matchup is November 1st. And then we talked about last week about the Heat moving back to, or the Heat going back to the Nuggets in a finals rematch. Some other games we can kind of talk about as well. Chet Holmgren and Victor Wembanyama are going to be playing against each other in the preseason. Whether they both play or not is questionable. We do not know. And then also on opening night, Phoenix and Golden State will be playing. That's Chris Paul's first time playing against them since the whole big trade. It'll be interesting to see what goes down in the NBA. Obviously, the schedule being released tells everybody that, hey, we're just right around the corner from the season kind of starting up. Training camp starts at the beginning of September. So super exciting to really get into it and move around the corner to the NBA season, which I love a lot. Another things we could talk about for some returns. Jordan Poole makes his return to Golden State on December 22nd. That'll be an interesting matchup. And then Bradley Beal makes his return to Washington, D.C. On February 4th when the Suns and the Wizards play against each other. So I promised you guys that I was going to break down the Grizzlies schedule a little bit because I don't know. I just feel like there's a part of the audience that really care about the Grizzlies, and I really care about the Grizzlies, obviously. So I want to talk to you guys a little bit about it. The first game announced is opening night against the New Orleans Pelicans at home at the FedEx Forum. We'll be seeing Marcus Smart in action in a Grizzly uniform and Derrick Rose as well in a Grizzly uniform for the first time that night, opening night. And then Friday, the Friday after that, second game of the year, we got to play the defending champions in the Denver Nuggets. So that's going to be an interesting little start here. Let's remind everybody that Ja Morant is suspended for the first 25 games, so Ja will not be playing in any of these upcoming games I'll be talking about here before we get to it. Obviously, the schedule going into the in-season tournament, a game against Utah, a game against Portland, a game against the Lakers, and a game against the Suns. Those are all a part of the in-season tournament. Things to note, when looking at the in-season tournament schedule, their dates were so spread out for all the teams, and it was kind of like, are they really getting this much rest? They are not. There are games in between. The Grizzlies play back-to-back games in Portland against the Trailblazers, which is very odd. The Grizzlies also play the Celtics. The Celtics come to the FedEx Forum for the first time on November 19th to see play Marcus Smart for the first time since that trade. They end up going to Boston for the first time. Marcus Smart getting his return back in TD Garden, I believe, in February. Yes, February 4th on ESPN. Dylan Brooks will be returning to the FedEx Forum on December 15th. He will be making his return on that Friday where the Rockets come into town to play the Grizzlies. It notes here that there's a big drop-off right here. We played the Phoenix Suns on the 2nd of December, and then we don't play an actual scheduled game until December 11th. So if we don't qualify for the in-season tournament quarterfinals, do we just not get another game? Because they all said that once you make the in-season tournament finals, you end up playing 83 games in a season. So are we ended up playing extra games? I don't really know how that all works. They haven't really fully broken it down for us. I don't even know if they really know what they're doing. The big thing to talk about here, and this is exciting for me, as if you don't know, I go to school at Southern Miss. This is my big thing because there's no sports around here at all. I'm fiending for it. And if you know, New Orleans is about an hour and a half, a little bit underneath that to get to there. So I always want to go see the Grizzlies play when they play in New Orleans. And it just so happens that they play on December 19th in New Orleans, Louisiana. And why is that date so special, you might wonder? Well, that is the first game that Ja Morant is allowed to come back and play. Now, the Grizzlies play the Pelicans on that Tuesday night, the 19th. They go back home and play against the Pacers at home that Thursday. I think there's a chance Ja does not play that game after the suspension is up. Maybe just rejoin the team with them and then play at home as his return. But if he does come back against the Pelicans, just know who will be there in attendance for that and giving you live updates as well with that game. And then we play that game against New Orleans and Indiana, and then we play 4 straight on the road against Atlanta, New Orleans, Denver, and L.A. Super awesome there for us. If I haven't mentioned already, 13 games on national TV, 8 on ESPN, 5 on TNT. Couple others to note, the Warriors come into the FedEx Forum on MLK Day for the first time ever we've played them on MLK Day, so that'll be interesting. We have a really tough stretch where we play at the end of January going into February, where we play a stretch at home against Sacramento, Cleveland, Golden State, and then go to Boston and New York and Chicago. Like, that's a rough little stretch right there. All-Star break in between, I think it's the 16th through the 22nd of February. Give a little break there as well. Tyus Jones returns to the FedEx Forum on March 12th. I think I'll be in attendance for that one as well. The Thunder only play in Memphis once this year, which is kind of odd and random. We have our longest road trip of the season against the Kings, the Warriors, the Spurs, and the Nuggets. We play 7 of 8 on the road, only coming back home to play the Lakers on the 27th. That'll be our first matchup at home against them that season. And then we round off the final 2 games of the season against the Lakers and the Nuggets. Tough little stretch here for the Grizzlies there at the end of the season. But to note, the 25 games that'll be happening before Ja comes back, you're playing majority Western Conference teams. Now, that sucks. But luckily, we get Portland twice, we get Utah twice, we get San Antonio, we get Washington, we get Utah again, we get another Dallas, which we don't know how good they'll be. We get Houston a couple times. So we're getting these games that, I'm just glad we're not playing the Denvers as much. The Lakers, all these teams that could really kind of interfere with our with the first 25 games without Ja Morant being on the court for the Grizzlies. I still think it's a great year. I think the win total was just set at 46.5, which, I don't know what to think about that. I feel like that's a little too low, but I'm also a little biased. So take with whatever I say with a grain of salt. But that's the NBA schedule. That's the Grizzlies schedule. If you're a Grizzly fan, let me know how you think that schedule looks for us. I really hope Ja does return to that on that New Orleans game so that I am in attendance for that game. That would be a really cool thing to have happen. If not, I'm just excited to see the Grizzlies get back on the court, especially when Ja Morant comes back. Quickly, I don't want to keep you guys here too much longer, but it hasn't been done in a while. College football is right around the corner. I know there's some picks that want to be made. I know you guys want to hear some betting analysis from my terrible betting ass. I went to Biloxi like 2 weeks ago. And, I mean, I was getting shafted the entire weekend by the slot machines. It was about the worst gambling weekend anyone could have ever had, is what I put on display in the casinos. Yeah, it was just a terrible experience for me. But, I'm going to stick to my thing, which is sports betting, which I'm not the worst at. So I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to run down some things that are coming up this weekend that maybe, hey, if you want to bet on some preseason NFL, go ahead. I'll tell you some of the bets I made for the NCAA futures. If you want to just take a look at some of those things as well and maybe potentially want to bet on them, go for it. But looking at this weekend in the NFL, I like the Panthers +3 on Friday against the Giants. I do not hate that at all with Young and Dalton as your two and Corral as your third guy. Wouldn't hate that at all for them. I like the Texans money line against the Dolphins. Dolphins aren't really going to be playing too many people again. Kind of doing the same thing San Francisco always has, not really playing too many guys no matter what the preseason game is. And C.J. Stroud getting a second game under his belt with Davis Mills being the backup is not a bad tandem to have. I like the Steelers. I guess they're getting +1, but that's not really worth anything. So just go money line with the Steelers. They looked really good last week. Their quarterback carousel is Pickett, Mitch Trubisky, and Mason Rudolph, all worthy quarterbacks of preseason play. So go ahead and pick them. Kind of looking at some other games here. I kind of like the Packers money line here. Sean Clifford looked really good last week. That's on Saturday night as well. Sorry, I forgot to mention that. I like this here. Sean Clifford looked really good. Jordan Love, if he plays enough, will look good. I don't know what the Patriots are going to do because Bill doesn't say anything as he normally does. So I'd probably lean Packers in that game. Moving down a little bit more, the Raiders and the Rams. A preseason over? Who said you ever needed to bet over-unders in preseason? Well, I do. So you're betting the over 39 in the Raiders and Rams game. You got Stetson, you got Aiden O'Connell. You like guys who sling the ball and looked really good last week doing it. So that means they're both going to suck this week, but we're still going to bet the over because it's preseason football and who really cares? So let's roll with those. And then on Sunday night, I like the Saints money line. You can even take a -3 if you want to. I think that they're just poised to have a good preseason, even though they kind of looked a little shaky in the second half last week against Kansas City. I still like what they can bring through the rest of this preseason, so they're another good team to bet on there. Women's World Cup. Now, you're probably like, all right, why are we betting on the Women's World Cup? I don't really know, but it's fun. The final is on Sunday at 5 in the morning, so you're probably not going to be watching that. England and Spain are playing against each other. I would not hate England winning the Women's World Cup. I think they're pretty good. I've heard they're pretty good. I would lean towards England. If you are a soccer betting person, let me know. I just think England's probably the better of the two teams there. And then to finish third on Saturday, they play at 3 a.m., Sweden and Australia. I'd lean Sweden there for that one. I like Sweden. I had Sweden, I think, beating Spain, or I thought that they were going to, and they didn't end up doing so. So terrible bet by me, obviously. But still, if you want to get your cleanse of soccer betting, then go ahead and do it with the Women's World Cup there. And we'll kind of look at the win totals. These are the ones that I put in. Duke, over 6.5 wins. I got it at +124. I like that one a lot for them. I went with Virginia Tech's, Virginia Tech's under 5.5 wins. I got it at -140. I don't hate that too much. Either don't really think Virginia Tech is going to be the best team this year. I went ahead and bet the under on Texas A&M wins as well. It was at I think 8. It was either 7.5 or 8, and I got it at +118. I think it was. So anything plus money is good money. So I took them there. Different sports books may vary depending on where you are and who you use. I took the over on Kansas's total wins this year, 6.5. I got it at +128.
I like that a lot as well. I also went ahead and took over on Texas Tech's wins at 7.5 at minus 105. I don't hate that either. I think that they're a pretty solid team as well. And then I took the hype beast bet just because why not? But if you look at their schedule, there's no reason they shouldn't win 4 games with the talent on their roster, the hype they've gotten, and some of the teams they have to play along the way. I took the over on Colorado's wins at 3.5 at plus 126. I don't hate that one either. I think there's some really good value you can find. If you're trying to look for futures bets in college football, go back and listen to all of my college football previews. I break down every team in every conference in the Power 5, kind of getting you prepared for the season, getting you ready for who's going to be the best teams, who are going to be the sleeper teams, who are going to have the biggest disappointments, some of the names to look out for. Go listen to all of that to get your knowledge before this next upcoming weekend. This next week we'll preview some of the games going on. This next weekend is the start of college football. One more preseason weekend next week in the NFL as well before the NFL season kicks off. Things are starting to take off around the corner. Don't forget to watch Team USA basketball this weekend. I think they're playing Greece on Saturday or Sunday. Friday, Saturday, or Sunday. Just pay attention and watch out for that because it's always fun to watch them play for our country. Enjoy the weekend. Take care of yourselves. Take care of your mentals always. And we'll be back again on Monday. I'm Alex McNinch, and you just got your Sports Digest.